It was a small change, but a frightening one. Last month, the doomsday clock was moved forward 1 second.
It is now 89 seconds to midnight.
The doomsday clock measures how close we are to total annihilation. At 89 seconds to midnight, it's now the closest it's ever been. But believe it or not, the goal of this is not to scare you, it's to make you take action. Our Joe Donlan found out why one of the people behind this is actually optimistic about our future.
We're at a moment of incredible danger. Everyone is freaked out. What are we doing? We need to turn the clock back. This part here is related to the doomsday clock.
University of Chicago professor Daniel Holtz is one of the people who moved the doomsday clock forward. He's the current chair of the Science and Security Board at the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, which has been tracking the risk of world destruction since the atomic bomb was invented.
It's a symbolic thing. We're trying to capture the urgency of the moment.
And at this moment, Holtz says we are threatened by nuclear weapons.
We want even more and even better weapons, and you can ask why. But we're doing it, China is doing it, Russia is doing it.
Climate change.
We just came off the hottest year on record. There are fires, there's floods, there's extreme drought.
Biohazards like pandemics.
Because of travel, because of kind of modern life as we know it, pandemics have a tendency to go much faster, and we saw that with COVID.
And even artificial intelligence.
If an AI hallucinates and ends civilization, that would be a bummer. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
But the clock isn't meant to depress you. It's designed to inspire you.
We're hoping that by bringing attention to this, people will react accordingly, and the clock will be turned back.
And it did turn back in 2010. So what would make Holtz and the Bulletin move the clock in the right direction again?
Heads of state saying, whoa, we do have to talk. Let's not just demonize each other, but let's sit down and try to make a deal. Let's try to work something out. That is progress.
And there are already positive signs on climate change.
The world is increasingly aware, and citizens, people in the streets are increasingly aware. We need that to kind of trickle up, as it were, to leadership. To work with the doomsday clock is a fundamentally optimistic endeavor. If we were convinced it was hopeless, there's no point in spending one's time doing this.
The doomsday clock was invented in 1947. It was initially set to 7 minutes to midnight. The furthest from midnight we've ever been, 17 minutes. That was in 1991 after the Cold War ended and a new treaty greatly reduced the number of nuclear weapons.
All right, shalom, shalom, Akim. I want to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto the Heavenly Father, whose true name is Yahweh Bahashem. Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone who do well. Peace and salutations to the Akim doing the work in truth and in sincerity across the four corners of the earth. It's your brother, Amawan Ariala, coming at you with another lesson. And today, just wanted to go into the doomsday clock. All right. And this came out on the 10th of January. This news article that I have here. And it's going into how much closer we are to the end of the world, okay? And we know what 2nd Ezra 6:9 says. It says that Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Well, we are very, very, very close to that happening. And these leaders of these different nations, they understand that as well. Okay, so I want to read the article, go into it a little bit, and bring out some precepts to back it up. Okay, so it says this month the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists at the University of Chicago is scheduled to announce whether the hands of its famous doomsday clock will move closer to midnight. It feels like a safe bet that Armageddon, right? Armageddon in the scriptures, is drawing nearer today than it has in a long time. The doomsday clock started almost 80 years ago when the physicists who developed the atomic bomb grew alarmed at its use against Japan to end World War II. Okay, between the late 1940s and the early 1990s, nuclear war almost happened repeatedly. Okay, and we know that every nation, because back in 1940, only a few nations, well, really only America had the ability to drop a nuclear bomb. Okay, and ever since then, every other nation has tried to get their hands on atomic weaponry. Okay, which is pretty much drawing the end of the world closer and closer, as we see. Okay, you have this whole situation with Iran, North Korea has nuclear warheads. Okay, Russia has nuclear warheads. All right, India has nuclear warheads. The world is ready, all right, to go off if they feel threatened, or if there's a threat of nuclear war, if there's an invasion of their home, they're willing to use or exercise this power to protect themselves. Okay, but you have nations such as Russia and China who are really, they don't care about using nuclear weapons. They do, but they're going to use it to assert their power. All right, they're not going to be bullied by America, and America is not going to allow, these other nations to, become the next superpower. So, we're looking at a real tumultuous time. All right, everyone's on edge, okay, and the world is drawing closer and closer to the end. Okay, so it says between the late 1940s and the early 1990s, nuclear war almost happened repeatedly as America and the Soviet Union fought the Cold War. Chicago's atomic scientists moved Slovakia the hands of their clock from 7 minutes to midnight, and it starts and the start and at its start in 1947 to 2 minutes to midnight as of 1953, when the U.S. and the Soviets started testing enormously powerful hydrogen bombs. The 1990 uh, ushered in a period of relative peace and proactive disarmament. In 1991, after the U.S. and the Soviet Union signed the START Treaty, uh, reducing strategic nuclear stockpiles, the clock was turned back to 17 minutes before the hour. The stockpile of nuclear warheads shrunk. The test explosions became increasingly rare. Today, the world is entering a more dangerous phase. The number of doomsday weapons and the number of countries wielding them, right? These different nations, they have nuclear capabilities now. Back in the time of 1940s, 1950s, really America was the only, superpower that had uh, the ability to, wield the nuclear warhead, right? But now you have all these different nations that have that capability as well. The clock gives humanity just 89 seconds to reverse course. All right, its most perilous setting ever. Yet fewer people are paying attention. So it went from 7 minutes to 17 minutes when they were doing peace talks, but now it's at 89 seconds, right? And nobody's paying attention. The de-escalation that started in the early 1990s never would have happened without the intense public pressure that includes mass demonstrations demanding an end to the arms race. And don't underestimate the impact of the 1980s movies with the plausible depictions of death and horror after a nuclear exchange, right? But we all understand when they made the gun, they used it. When they made the bullets, they used it. When they made grenades, they use it. All right. So they made the nuclear warheads, they're going to use it. There is no, preventing nuclear, war. You can try as much as you want, but really the Lord is putting a spirit on these nations to prepare for something big. Okay. And this is what the doomsday clock is all about. So it says people were scared, and rightfully so. Now the fear factor is way down. It shouldn't be. New start. One of the landmark treaties that helped to pull the world back from the brink is set to expire in February. In April, the United Nations will host a non-proliferation conference, and its likely short-sighted national interests will overweigh concerns about the common good. Nuclear weapons testing could make a destabilizing comeback in 2026. Countries across the world are rearming as they recognize increased threats. And who's the increased threats? You got it. America, aka Babylon. That whole invasion of Venezuela, okay, the bombing over there in Nigeria, bombing over there in Iran, Syria, okay? These other nations look at America as a threat. Okay, so what's going to happen now? The more the threat increases, the more they're going to want to defend themselves, and they're not going to use the little pew pews to do it. They're going to go big, man. All right, because the scripture talks about how the beast is going to hate the whore. Okay, and it says all those that have bows shoot at her. Okay, let me see if I can find that. All they that bend a bow, shoot at her. Because everybody has, a bow just represents the arrow or a nuclear weapon, right? Salakia. The book of Jeremiah, starting at verse 50, starting at verse 13, it says, because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at her all her plagues, right? Because the Lord's bringing back those plagues that he did in Egypt. He's bringing them back again. Okay, put yourself, put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all ye that bend a bow. Okay, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against the Lord. So these different nations, they're going to unload their military arsenal here on Babylon, man. Okay, it says, shout against her round about. She hath given her hand. Her foundations are fallen. Her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of the Lord. Take vengeance upon her as she hath done, do unto her. Okay. And we know that America is known for bombing different nations, Cambodia, all right, or Kissinger, I think it was, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Syria. Okay. America's known for being a tyrant. Okay, so now you have these people here, they understand that, they're getting closer and closer to the end of the world. All right, so let me go back to the article here. It says in April, the United Nations will host a proliferation conference, and it's likely, okay, short-sighted national interests will overweigh concerns about the common good. Nuclear weapons testing could make a destabilizing comeback in 2026, but we know it's not. Countries across the world are rearming as they recognize increased threats. Russia's war on Ukraine is especially troubling. Drone incursions, all right, sabotage and vulnerability of nuclear reactors is turning Europe into a dangerous flashpoint. The militarization of space, right? We got the Space Force, all right, and they made this with a chariot. All right, the militarization of space, expanded anti-missile defenses, and potential risks of AI could create additional instability. Proliferation is a red alert risk again. One of arms control's greatest success, keeping the so-called nuclear club to 9 countries, could fall by the wayside. When Ukraine agreed to give up the nuclear weapons on its soil in the mid-1990s, Russia provided a security guarantee, okay, that proved worthless. Now, Europe has a reason to doubt President Donald Trump's commitment to NATO's nuclear defense, forcing a reassessment among countries that depend on the U.S. for deterrence. Okay, in Asia, South Korea and Japan are widely viewed as capable of producing nuclear weapons on short notice, with China and North Korea expanding their nuclear arsenals and the U.S. increasingly viewed as unreliable. Regional rivals may decide they need nuclear weapons for self-defense, right? So they're not looking to attack other nations. These other nations are creating these nuclear weapons to protect themselves against America. Okay, and this is what we're seeing now, man. All right, the Heavenly Father is going to pour out his vengeance on this place, and he's going to destroy it and bring it down. This place is going to burn with fire. So now let me go ahead and go get the book here of Isaiah 45. All right, let's see what that says. Is it 47? 47. The book of Isaiah 47, it says, come down, all right, and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. All right, talking about America. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, right? Your position of power is going to be taken away from you. O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstones, and grind mill, uncover thy locks, and make the bare leg, uncover thy thigh. Pass over the rivers, thy nakedness shall be uncovered. Yea, thy shame shall be seen. And I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. As for our Redeemer, Yahweh of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the lady of kingdoms, right? Babylon's going to be brought down low, okay? People are going to walk by and hiss and wag the hand, all right? It's going to be a desert. Nothing's going to be able to inhabit here. It says, I was wroth with my people. I polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid the yoke. And that's what happened here during the time of our captivity, man. Hardcore captivity. And we're still in captivity. Okay? We're still, not free. We still got to pay taxes. We're still subject to payments. We're still, how you say, being worn out. Okay? Not having a time to rest. Okay? And verse 7 says, and thou saidest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it. Okay? But I wanted to get down here, and we'll get there eventually. It says, therefore, it says, therefore now hear this, thou that art given to pleasures, right? Because America is full of pleasure, right? Everybody here is fat, eat 3 times a day, have no real worries, okay? Spending money carelessly. It says it says that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But that's too far out. You're gonna lose, man, big time. Okay, in this last and final war, Yahweh Shemi is going to destroy a lot of these Edomites, man. Okay, a lot of those military personnel that go out to fight are going to be destroyed in World War III. But these 2 things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection for the multitude of thy sorceries and for the great abundance of thy enchantment. Okay, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me, right? Because America doesn't want nobody else to be a superpower. Okay, it figures in its mind that it's gonna sit on, that she's gonna sit on this throne forever. Nobody's gonna ever bring her down. Okay, but the Lord is saying you're gonna know the loss of children, and you're gonna know how it feels to be a widow. You're gonna be destroyed. Verse 11, therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee. Thou shalt not be able to put it off, and the desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, with that which thou shalt not know. Okay, so stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be, thou shalt be able to profit. If so be, thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. And that's the whole point, man. All right. These people coming together, trying to figure out, what's the next move when it comes to nuclear warfare. All right. When it comes to this so-called doomsday clock. All right. And, they're trying to figure out how to avoid it. Okay. And how to prevent it or how to slow it down. But it's inevitable. Okay. America's going to be destroyed in 1 hour, man, 1 day. Okay. And it's going to be from all these different nations that have nuclear capabilities launching on it. Launching their arrows or the nuclear warheads on it. All right, verse 13 says, thou art weird with the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers and stargazers, the monthly prognosticators, stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. All right, behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them, they shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flames. There shall not be a coal to warm at nor fire to sit before it. Okay, so this place is done, man. And they could sit there and try to analyze how close they are and try to figure out how to prevent, or de-escalate, these different events from happening, but it's inevitable. It is going to happen. All right, because America will not sit back as these other nations become a superpower. Okay. So with that, I pray this lesson was edifying. Let me see if I can find another article here. There was a video that I wanted to play. Right. Yeah. I wanted to play it, but it's in another language. Okay, but it still serves a purpose. So let me see if I can play it. And this is all for educational purposes. Okay, I'm not making any money off of it. So real quick.
Here's Tony going to his Cub Scout meeting. Tony knows the bomb can explode any time of the year, day or night. He is ready for it. duck and cover.
Dum-dum, beedle-dum-dum, beedle-dum-dum, beedle-dum-dum. There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and Bert the turtle was very alert.
עד שנות ה-90 העולם חי בחשש ממלחמה גרעינית. רוסיה הסובייטית וארצות הברית אגרו וייצרו כמויות אדירות של פצצות גרעין, כמעט 70,000.
What are you supposed to do when you see the flash?
אבל אז ברית המועצות נפלה ושתי המעצמות סיכמו על הפחתה משמעותית של הארסנל הגרעיני.
We will actually reduce